6 months after the Velthari fleet arrived at Earth, the war ended. Not with a final climactic battle, but with a quiet surrender ceremony on the Velthari homeworld. The empire that had conquered 12 species in weeks had fallen in half a year. Warlord Krivosh stood in chains before a galactic tribunal. Representatives from every species the Velthari had attacked sat in judgment. Humans made up only a small portion of the court. This wasn't humanity's justice, it was everyone's. Council Elder Sarvith read the charges. Warlord Krivosh, you stand accused of war crimes, crimes against sentience and the unprovoked invasion of peaceful worlds. How do you answer? Krivosh looked around the courtroom. He saw coalition citizens he'd conquered. He saw human soldiers who'd defeated him. He saw even his own people, Velthari civilians who'd been horrified by what their empire had done. Guilty, he said quietly. I am guilty of all charges. The courtroom stirred. No one had expected him to confess so easily. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Sarvith asked. No, what defense could I offer? I led an empire that conquered and killed because we had the power to do so. I thought might made right. The humans taught me otherwise. I deserve whatever punishment you decide. The tribunal deliberated for 3 days. When they returned, Sarvith delivered the verdict. Warlord Krivosh, you are sentenced to life imprisonment. You will serve your sentence on a coalition world, in a facility where you can see the damage you caused. You will spend the rest of your life witnessing the rebuilding you made necessary. Krivosh bowed his head. Death would have been easier. This was justice, but Krivosh was only one trial among thousands. Velthari military officers, administrators, and government officials all faced judgment. Some were sentenced to prison. Others, those who could prove they'd committed no atrocities, were released. The humans insisted on fair trials for everyone, even their enemies. Dr. Nari led the peace negotiations. Representatives from every species gathered on a neutral station to decide the galaxy's future. The discussions were long and often heated. The Velthari Empire must be dismantled, one coalition representative insisted. They're too dangerous to exist. The Empire, yes, Nari agreed. But not the Velthari people. They're not all guilty. Many were just following orders or didn't even know what their government was doing. We separate the guilty from the innocent. What about reparations? They destroyed our worlds, absolutely. The Velthari government will pay reparations, but we structure them carefully. We want them to rebuild your worlds, not bankrupt their entire species. Punish the guilty, not the innocent. Ambassador Taman, no longer an ambassador but still representing Velthari interests, spoke up. What you're describing would take generations. Yes, Nari said simply. Good. That gives everyone time to heal and ensures future generations grow up in a different galaxy. We're not looking for revenge. We're building a lasting peace. The negotiations produced the Galactic Accord, a document that would govern interspecies relations going forward. Its key principles were simple. No species could attack another without provocation. Disputes would be resolved through arbitration, and any species with sufficient military power would defend weaker species from aggression. But the accord needed enforcement, which led to humanity's most controversial proposal. Admiral Doyun stood before the assembled representatives. We proposed the creation of a galactic defense force, a military organization composed of volunteers from all member species, trained to defend against future threats. You want to create a galactic army? Someone asked skeptically. With humans in charge? Not with humans in charge, Doyun corrected. With humans as trainers. We'll teach tactics, strategy, and combat skills, but command of the defense force will rotate among member species. We're offering our expertise, not our control. Why would you do this? Council Elder Sarvith asked. You could dominate the galaxy now. No one could stop you. Because we don't want to dominate, Doyun said. We want peace. And we've learned that peace needs guardians. We became very good at war so we could defend our peace. Now we're offering to teach others the same skill. Not so you can conquer, but so you can defend. So no one ever does to you what the Velthari did. The proposal passed, though not without debate. Within a month, construction began on the Galactic Defense Academy. Commander Hyunwoo became the Academy's first director. The facility was built on a neutral world, a massive complex that could house thousands of students. Trainees arrived from dozens of species, including, controversially, the Velthari. Are you sure about this? General Chol asked, watching the first class arrive. Training our former enemies? Especially our former enemies, Hyunwoo said. The Velthari need to learn that military force is for defense, not conquest. Who better to teach them than us? The Academy's motto was inscribed over its main entrance: "Prepare for war, pray for peace." Every student learned it on their first day. Captain G1 retired from active combat to become the Academy's primary flight instructor. Her first class included humans, coalition species, and 3 Velthari who'd defected during the war. "Listen up," she said on the first day. "I don't care what species you are or what your world did during the war. Here you're all students. You're all learning the same skills, and you're all going to be held to the same standards. My job is to teach you to fly combat spacecraft. Your job is to learn so you can defend your homes and each other." Questions? One of the Velthari students raised a hand. "Why are you helping us? We tried to conquer you." "You personally tried to conquer us?" G1 asked. "No, I was still in school." "Then you're not responsible for what your government did. You're only responsible for what you do now. Right now you're choosing to learn to defend others instead of attack them. That's worth teaching." She looked around the room. "The galaxy needs defenders, not conquerors. We're going to make you into defenders. It won't be easy. Combat training never is, but by the time you graduate, you'll be ready to protect whatever you consider worth protecting." Lieutenant Soman took charge of ground combat training. Her methods were intense but fair. She pushed every student to their limits regardless of species. Some couldn't handle it and dropped out. Those who stayed earned her respect. One day, a human student complained that she was too hard on them. Soman gathered the entire class. "You think I'm tough? Good, I am tough. You know why? Because if you graduate from this academy and go into combat, people will depend on you. Civilians will depend on you to protect them. Fellow soldiers will depend on you to cover them. If you fail, people die. I'm tough because I care whether you live or die. I'm tough because I want you ready for the worst day of your life. And if you can't handle tough training, you definitely can't handle real combat. So yes, I'm tough. Deal with it or leave." No one left. Observer Vectis, now officially a defector and teacher, led classes on strategy and intelligence. He taught students about the mistakes the Velthari Empire had made. "We assumed technological superiority meant victory," he explained to one class. "We were wrong. We assumed peaceful species would stay peaceful. We were wrong. Most importantly, we assumed we understood our enemies. We were catastrophically wrong. The lesson here is simple. Never assume. Always verify. Always question. The moment you think you know everything about your opponent is the moment you've already lost." Dr. Nari established a parallel institution, the Institute for Galactic Peace Studies. While the Academy taught combat, the Institute taught conflict resolution, diplomacy, and cooperation. Many students attended both, learning to be warriors and peacemakers simultaneously. These 2 institutions represent humanity's philosophy, Nari explained at the Institute's opening ceremony. The Academy teaches you to fight. The Institute teaches you to avoid fighting. Both are necessary. A galaxy that can only fight will destroy itself. A galaxy that can't fight will be conquered. You need both skills. The rebuilding of conquered worlds proceeded slowly but steadily. Velthari work crews, supervised by coalition engineers and human military personnel, repaired the damage their empire had caused. It was hard, uncomfortable work. Many Velthari had never done manual labor before, but it was part of their reparations, part of their path to redemption. One afternoon, a young Velthari worker approached Colonel Hiejin, who was overseeing reconstruction in the capital city. "I have a question," the worker said nervously. "Go ahead." "Why do you treat us fairly? We destroyed your friends' worlds. You defeated us completely. You could make us slaves, kill us, anything. But instead you give us fair trials, fair work conditions, even pay us for our labor. Why?" Yejin stopped her inspection and looked at the young Velthari. "Do you know what happens if we enslave or kill you? We're punished for our crimes? No, we become like your old empire. We become conquerors and oppressors. And eventually someone will come along to defeat us just like we defeated you. It's a cycle. Conquerors create rebels. Rebels become new conquerors. It never ends unless someone chooses to break the cycle. We're choosing to break it. We're treating you fairly because that's the only way to build real peace. What if we betray that trust?" The news of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Velthari Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, had been defeated in a single battle. The conquered species of the Rimward Coalition barely believed it at first. Then human ships began arriving in their systems. Commander Hyunwoo stood in the command center of a liberation fleet headed for the Coalition's former capital world. Dr. Nari was with him, along with representatives from several Coalition species. "We'll arrive in 6 hours," Hyunwoo said. "The Velthari garrison has about 20 ships and several thousand ground troops. They've been informed of Krevash's surrender, but the local commander is refusing to stand down." Council Elder Sarveth, leader of the Coalition government in exile, looked worried. "Will you bombard the planet? Many of our people are still down there." "We don't bomb civilian populations," Hyunwoo said flatly. "That's what the Velthari do. We'll engage their ships in orbit, then send ground forces to liberate the cities. Casualties will be minimized. But that will take so much longer. Why not just destroy them from orbit?" Dr. Nari answered this time. "Because we're not conquerors. We're liberators. There's a difference. We'll take the harder path because it's the right path." The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately came under fire from the Velthari garrison. But these ships had heard about the battle at Earth. Their formation was hesitant, defensive. They knew what was coming. Captain Jiwon led the attack. Her squadron moved through the Velthari ships like a surgical knife, targeting weapons and engines but avoiding reactor strikes that would destroy the ships entirely. Within an hour, every Velthari vessel was disabled or surrendered. "Orbital space is secure," Jiwon reported. "Beginning landing operations." Colonel Hyejin led the ground assault. Her Marines dropped from orbit in armored pods, landing in the capital city's main square. The Velthari troops opened fire immediately, but human armor was designed to withstand much worse than plasma rifles. The Marines advanced through the streets using tactics that came from urban combat experience going back centuries. They used buildings for cover, moved in coordinated teams, and cleared each structure methodically. When they encountered Velthari positions, they didn't charge in. They isolated the positions, cut off reinforcements, and offered surrender before firing a shot. Many Velthari soldiers surrendered. The battle at Earth had broken something in the Empire's military. They'd thought themselves invincible. Now they knew better. By sunset on the first day the capital was liberated, Coalition citizens emerged from their homes cautiously, hardly believing it was over. Human Marines helped them, providing medical care and food. Colonel Hyejin set up a temporary headquarters in the main square and started coordinating relief efforts. Council Elder Sarveth walked through the liberated city, tears streaming down his face. He found Hyejin directing her troops. "Why?" he asked. "Why are you doing this? What do you want from us?" Hyejin looked at him. "We want you to be free, that's all, but you must want something. Territory, resources, tribute. We want you to be free," Hyejin repeated. 30 years ago, before we unified, humans fought each other constantly. We know what it's like to be conquered, to be occupied, to have no freedom. We swore when we unified that we'd never do that to others, and we'd never let it happen to others if we could stop it. But the cost. You lost ships, soldiers. For what? For you. For every civilian in this city. For the principle that strong species shouldn't prey on weak ones. She turned back to her work. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a city to secure and people to help." The liberation campaign spread across Coalition space. Human fleets moved from system to system, engaging Velthari garrisons. Each battle followed the same pattern. The humans offered surrender first. If refused, they fought with overwhelming skill but deliberate restraint. They disabled rather than destroyed. They captured rather than killed. Ensign Minho, a young communications officer, intercepted a transmission between Velthari commanders. He brought it to Hyunwoo immediately. "Sir, you need to hear this. The Velthari are panicking. They're pulling forces back to their core systems. But there's more. They're discussing using biological weapons." Hyunwoo's expression went cold. "Play it." The recording showed Velthari military leaders arguing. One faction wanted to release biological agents on human-held worlds. They claimed it was the only way to stop the human advance. "They can't be serious," Nari said. "That would kill millions." "They're desperate," Hyunwoo said. "Desperate people do terrible things. Ensign Minho, send this to Admiral Doyen immediately, and prepare a broadcast for all Velthari forces." An hour later, every Velthari communication channel received the same message. It was Hyunwoo's voice, calm but absolutely firm. "Attention all Velthari military personnel. We have intercepted communications discussing the use of biological weapons against human forces. We are informing you that such action would be catastrophic for you. Humans have experience with biological warfare. We use such weapons on ourselves during our darkest period. We know exactly how they work and how to counter them. We developed vaccines and treatments for diseases that don't even exist yet, just in case. If you deploy biological weapons, they won't stop us, but they will change our rules of engagement. So far, we've treated you with restraint and mercy. Use biological weapons and that ends. We will consider it a crime against sentience itself. This is your only warning. The message included footage from human history, showing the devastation biological weapons had caused. It showed human scientists working on countermeasures. It showed the massive infrastructure humanity had built specifically to deal with such threats. The Velthari military leaders watched in horror. The humans hadn't just thought about biological warfare, they'd prepared for it extensively. And the message was clear. Humanity would view its use as an unforgivable war crime. The faction advocating for biological weapons fell silent. General Chul coordinated the ground campaigns across a dozen worlds. He sat in his command ship, watching reports flow in from his commanders. Every report was the same. Minimal casualties, successful liberation, grateful civilians. Ambassador Taman, now a prisoner, was brought to meet with him. Taman looked beaten, exhausted. His scales had lost their shine. "You wanted to see me?" Taman asked. "I wanted to explain something," General Chul said. "You came to Earth and offered us two choices, surrender or die. You thought those were the only options because that's how the Velthari Empire works. But humans learned something from our long history. We learned that there's always another choice. We could have surrendered and lost our freedom. We could have fought and become monsters in the process, killing everyone to win. Instead, we chose a harder path. We fought with restraint. We won without becoming what we fought against. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand. The Velthari Empire thought strength meant crushing the weak. You measured yourselves by how easily you could conquer others. But that's not strength, that's just bullying. Real strength is knowing you can destroy your enemies and choosing not to. Real strength is fighting hard enough to win, but not so hard that you become evil. Humans have been wrestling with this question for thousands of years. We don't always get it right, but we keep trying. Taman looked at his clawed hands. We thought we were civilized. We thought we were superior. You had better technology. That's not the same thing as being civilized. General Chul stood. The war is almost over. Velthari resistance is collapsing. Your empire is falling apart. What happens next depends on your people's choices. You can keep fighting and be destroyed, or you can surrender, face justice for your crimes, and help us build something better. What if we choose to fight to the last? Then we'll defeat you, and it will be tragic because it didn't have to happen. But understand this, we won't slaughter you. We'll keep offering surrender until the end because that's who we are. We hope you'll choose life over death. On the front lines, Captain G1's squadron encountered something unexpected. A group of Velthari ships had broken away from their fleet and were broadcasting a surrender signal. But they were also requesting something unusual. They want to help us, G1's communications officer said. They're offering intelligence on Velthari defensive positions. They say they want to stop the war. G1 considered this carefully. Ask them why. The reply came back quickly. They say they joined the military to defend their homeworld, not to conquer peaceful species. They say what their empire has done is wrong. They want to make it right. Do you believe them? Her executive officer asked. Doesn't matter what I believe. We give them a chance and watch them carefully. If they're sincere, we need their help. If they're not, we'll deal with it. Bring them in. Across the war zone, similar scenes played out. Velthari soldiers began defecting, refusing to fight. Some actively helped human forces, providing intelligence and tactical information. The Empire wasn't just losing the war, it was falling apart from within. Observer Vectis, who had tried to warn about humanity, defected early. He approached Dr. Nari with an offer. The Velthari fleet arrived precisely on schedule. 200 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Warlord Kravash stood on the bridge of his flagship, expecting to see surrender vessels approaching with white flags. Instead, his sensors showed something impossible. "Sir, we're detecting multiple hostile contacts." His sensor officer's voice cracked slightly. "Make that hundreds of hostile contacts. They're everywhere." The tactical display lit up like a starfield. Ships were emerging from behind planets, from asteroid fields, from positions around the sun itself. Human vessels, each one broadcasting active weapons locks. Where did they come from? Krevash demanded. Unknown, sir. They weren't there an hour ago. They must have been hiding, powered down to avoid detection. Ambassador Taman rushed onto the bridge. Warlord, I tried to warn you. Observer Vectus discovered something about the humans. They're not traitors. They're warriors. They've always been warriors. It doesn't matter what they were, Krevash snarled. Look at our numbers. We outnumber them 5-1. All ships attack formation. Target their largest vessels first. Show them what happens when they defy the Velthari Empire. The Velthari fleet moved forward in their standard battle formation. It had worked against 12 coalition species. It would work now. Captain Jiwan watched the Velthari fleet approach on her tactical display. They were moving in a tight formation, shields overlapping, bigger ships protecting smaller ones. It was solid defensive strategy against an enemy using energy weapons. Humans hadn't used energy weapons as their primary armament for 100 years. All ships. This is G1. Execute Alpha Pattern 7 railguns only reserve missiles. Target their shield generators. She switched to her crew channel. Weapons, you see that flagship? That's ours. The Indomitable accelerated hard, its fusion drive pushing the crew back into their seats. 49 other ships matched her speed, spreading into an attack pattern that would have been familiar to fighter pilots from Earth's 20th century. The Velthari opened fire first. Plasma bolts and quantum torpedoes filled space with deadly light. The human ships scattered, their smaller size and speed letting them dodge what the coalition never could. Some shots connected, and 3 human ships exploded into debris. But the rest kept coming. In range, Jiwan's weapons officer announced. Firing, the Indomitable's railgun fired. No light, no plasma, no energy signature. Just a solid slug of tungsten accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. It punched through the Velthari flagship's shields like they weren't there. Because shields designed to deflect energy couldn't stop solid matter moving that fast. The slug hit the flagship's port side, punching completely through the ship and out the other side. Atmosphere vented from dozens of holes. Secondary explosions rippled across the hull. All across the battlefield, other human ships were firing. Solid tungsten slugs tore through Velthari shields. The aliens' advanced defensive technology was useless against weapons that humanity had been refining for centuries. Shields are ineffective, a Velthari officer screamed. They're using kinetic weapons. Switch to point defense, Krevash ordered, gripping his command chair. Shoot down their projectiles. Reform the fleet. Use the hammer formation. The Velthari ships began to reorganize, their point defense systems tracking incoming railgun rounds. They shot down some, but not enough. Human gunners adjusted their fire, leading their targets using spread patterns. It was math that artillery officers had been calculating since humans invented cannons. Admiral Doyen watched from Earth's command center. They're adapting, good. Let's see how they handle Phase 2. All ships begin missile attack. Target their engines. The human fleet released thousands of missiles. Unlike the railgun rounds, these weren't moving at relativistic speeds. The Velthari point defense systems locked onto them immediately, destroying hundreds before they reached the fleet. But the missiles weren't trying to hit the Velthari ships. As point defense lasers destroyed them, they released clouds of metallic chaff that expanded rapidly, creating a sensor-blocking fog between the fleets. What is this? Krevash demanded. Our sensors can't see through it. It's some kind of countermeasure, sir. Our targeting systems are compromised. Through the chaff clouds, human ships were moving using short-range sensors and visual tracking. They emerged from the interference at point-blank range, firing continuously. Several Velthari ships simply came apart under the concentrated fire. Observer Vectus was working frantically at a secondary console, pulling up data on human military history. Warlord, I found something. These tactics, they're using methods from their old wars. That formation, the way they're using chaff, the railguns, it's called combined arms warfare. They're mixing different weapon types to overwhelm our defenses. I don't care what it's called, Krevash shouted. How do we stop it? Vectus scrolled through more files. I don't know. They have thousands of years of experience with this. We've never fought an enemy that thinks like this. The battle had been raging for 2 hours. The Velthari fleet had lost 40 ships. The humans had lost 12. The numbers still favored the Velthari, but the momentum had shifted completely. Krevash made a decision. Deploy quantum torpedoes, maximum yield. I don't care if we have to destroy their entire fleet. Fire everything. The Velthari ships launched their most powerful weapons. Quantum torpedoes could tear holes in space-time itself. They were devastating, unstoppable weapons that had broken the Coalition's resistance. Captain Jiwan saw them coming. All ships activate countermeasure drones. Pattern Delta. Each human ship released small drones that began transmitting false sensor data. To the quantum torpedoes' targeting systems, it suddenly looked like there were hundreds of human ships instead of dozens. The torpedoes split their targeting locks, trying to hit everything at once. Most of the torpedoes wasted themselves on empty space or the decoy drones. A few found real targets. 5 more human ships died in spectacular explosions, but the attack had failed to break the human formation. Impossible, Taemin whispered. Those torpedoes cost a fortune each. We just fired 200 of them. Hyunwoo's voice came over the fleet-wide channel, broadcasting to the Velthari. You fought the Coalition. They were peaceful people who never developed military technology. You thought all species were like them, but humans have been fighting since we lived in caves. We know every trick, every tactic, every counter to every weapon. You brought quantum torpedoes. We brought countermeasures we developed 30 years ago. Just in case we ever met someone with that technology. You want to know the difference between you and us? We prepare for wars we hope never happen. Kravash stared at his tactical display. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed. The humans had barely slowed down. All ships retreat. Fall back to the outer system. We need to reorganize. But Captain Jiwan wasn't letting them go. All ships pursue. Don't let them form up again. Hit their engines, strand them here. The human ships chased the retreating Velthari, picking off damaged vessels. Kravash's flagship, already badly damaged, was falling behind. Jiwan brought the Indomitable alongside it, matching speed. Warlord Kravash, she broadcast on an open channel. You came here expecting us to surrender. Instead, we've destroyed half your fleet. You can run now, but we'll hunt down every ship. Or you can surrender, and we'll show you more mercy than you showed the Coalition. Kravash looked around his ruined bridge. Fires burned at 3 different stations. His crew was battered and bleeding. Outside, human ships circled like sharks. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Unconditional surrender. Your ships will be escorted to holding positions. Your crews will be treated as prisoners of war, which means they'll be safe and cared for according to our conventions. You personally will face trial for war crimes. And if I refuse, then we'll destroy what's left of your fleet and move on to liberating the worlds you conquered. The choice is yours, but make it fast. My people have limited patience with bullies. Kravash closed his eyes. This was supposed to be easy. The humans were supposed to surrender without a fight. How had everything gone so wrong? I surrender, he said. Across the battlefield, Velthari ships began powering down their weapons and accepting human boarding parties. Lieutenant Somin led a marine team onto Kravash's flagship. They moved with practiced efficiency, securing the ship room by room. She found Kravash on the bridge, slumped in his command chair. Warlord Kravash, you're under arrest. Come with me. As Marines escorted him away, Kravash looked at Somin. She was young, barely out of her 20s by human standards. How? He asked. You've been at peace for 200 years. How are you so good at war? Somin's expression was hard. We were at peace. We were never pacifists. There's a difference. Every human child learns military history. We study tactics. We understand weapons. We hope we never have to use that knowledge, but we never forget it. You attacked us thinking we'd forgotten. That was your mistake. Admiral Doyen broadcast a message to the entire galaxy, transmitted through every communication network. This is Admiral Doyen of Earth Defense Command. The first 12 hours passed quickly. Ambassador Taemin spent them touring Earth's orbital facilities, making notes about human infrastructure. Everything he saw confirmed his initial assessment. The humans had decent technology for trade and exploration, but nothing military. Their stations were designed for comfort and efficiency, not defense. Their ships carried cargo containers, not weapons. He sent a brief report to Warlord Kravash. Humans will surrender. No military resistance expected. Recommend minimal fleet presence. What Taemin didn't know was that his tour had been carefully arranged. They showed him exactly what they wanted him to see. Deep in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, Captain Jiwan watched her crew prep the Indomitable for combat. The ship had been hidden inside a hollowed asteroid for 30 years, maintained but never activated. Now its fusion reactors hummed to life, and weapons systems ran through diagnostic checks. Captain, the railgun is charging normally, her weapons officer reported. All missile tubes are loaded and ready. Point defense systems are online. Jiwan nodded, studying the tactical display. Across the belt, 50 other ships were powering up. They weren't the biggest ships humanity had built, but they were the fastest and deadliest. Each one had been designed with a single purpose: to kill things efficiently. How long until we can move? She asked. 6 hours for full combat readiness. We can launch in 3 if necessary. Make it 4. I want everything perfect. This is going to be our first impression, and it needs to count. On Earth, Admiral Doyen stood in the command center watching status reports flood in from across human space. Every hidden facility was reporting in. Every reserve unit was mobilizing. The machine humanity had built during their last major conflict, then carefully mothballed, was awakening. Status report, he ordered. An aide pulled up the master board. Battle stations in the Jupiter and Saturn systems are at 60% power. The Mars defense grid is online. The lunar mass drivers are armed and tracking. Deep space fleet units are moving into position. We're pulling ships from the outer colonies. Estimated 24 hours until full mobilization. What about ground forces? General Cho reports all Marine divisions are activated. Planetary defense forces are moving to prepared positions. Civilian evacuation of major cities is underway, disguised as emergency drills. Doyen nodded. And our guest? Still in orbit, sir. He hasn't noticed anything unusual. Good, keep it that way. Historian Boram of the Velthari sat in his cabin aboard Taman's ship, reviewing human databases. Something bothered him, though he couldn't identify what. The humans had granted them access to their public historical records as a gesture of goodwill. Boram was reading through them, trying to understand the species before they joined the Empire. Human history was surprisingly well documented. They had detailed records going back thousands of years. Boram skimmed through the early periods, wars and conflicts and empires rising and falling. That was normal. Most species had violent pasts before they reached space. But as he moved forward in time, something strange happened. The violence didn't decrease, it intensified. Humans developed more efficient ways to kill each other, bigger weapons, better tactics. They fought wars that killed millions, then tens of millions. They invented weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. And then, about 200 years ago, it stopped. The wars ended. Humanity unified and went to the stars. Boram assumed they'd outgrown their violent nature, like most civilized species. He made a note to discuss this with Taman. There might be useful psychological patterns to exploit during the occupation. 48 hours after Taman's arrival, Dr. Nari requested a follow-up meeting. Taman agreed immediately, expecting to receive humanity's formal surrender ahead of schedule. They met in the same diplomatic suite. Hyunwoo was there again, still wearing that calm expression. Taman found it slightly annoying. Most species showed proper fear by this point. Ambassador Taman, Nari began, we've consulted with our government. We have questions about the surrender terms. Taman settled back in his chair. Of course. What concerns you? You mentioned we would be integrated into your empire. What does that mean for our existing government structure? It will be dissolved, as I explained. Velthari administrators will take control of planetary governments. Your leaders can keep advisory roles if they cooperate. And our military? You have no military to speak of. Your patrol ships will be decommissioned or absorbed into our fleet. Your personnel can join our service or return to civilian life. Hyunwoo spoke for the first time. What about our industrial capacity? Your factories will continue operating under Velthari oversight. Production will be directed to serve the Empire's needs. It's actually quite efficient. I see. Hyunwoo exchanged a glance with Nari. And if we have additional concerns, we can discuss them after the formal surrender? Certainly. We're not unreasonable. Once you've accepted Velthari authority, we can negotiate the details. Taman stood. I take it you'll be ready to surrender when the 72 hours expire? We'll be ready, Nari confirmed. After Taman left, he felt satisfied. The humans were already discussing details of their integration. They understood the inevitable. This would be the smoothest conquest yet. In the command center, Admiral Doyen watched the countdown clock. 18 hours remained. All units report ready, sir, his operations officer said. We're holding position as ordered. The Velthari haven't detected any of our ships. They're not looking, Doyen said. Why would they? To them, we're already defeated. Lieutenant Somin, status of ground forces? Lieutenant Soman pulled up her screens. Marine divisions are in position around all major population centers. We're ready to repel landing forces if they try to occupy us. They won't get that far, Doyen said quietly. But stay ready anyway. Captain Jiwan ran her squadron through final combat checks. 50 ships, each one crewed by people who remembered what humanity had been. Fighter pilots who'd trained in simulators running scenarios from every war in human history. Gunners who could calculate firing solutions in their heads. Engineers who could repair critical systems with whatever materials they had available. All ships, this is G1. Final systems check. Sound off. One by one, the ships reported in. All green. All ready. Good, G1 said. Listen up. In 16 hours, a Velthari fleet is going to arrive expecting us to surrender. We're going to give them a different kind of welcome. Remember your training. Trust your crews. And show them what happens when you underestimate humanity. With 12 hours remaining, Observer Vectis aboard Taman's ship made a discovery. He was a young officer, assigned to intelligence analysis. Unlike historian Borum, he was reading deeper into human history, looking for potential resistance groups or military secrets. He found something that made his blood run cold. The human databases didn't just record their wars. They analyzed them. They had detailed studies of tactics, strategy, logistics. They had entire universities dedicated to understanding violence. They taught their children about famous battles the way other species taught art or music. And the numbers. Vectis stared at the numbers. In their recorded history, humanity had fought more than 10,000 wars. Some lasted days, some lasted decades. They'd fought with sticks and stones, then swords and spears, then guns and tanks, then missiles and aircraft, then weapons that could burn entire continents. They hadn't outgrown violence. They'd gotten so good at it that they scared themselves into peace. Vectis ran to find Taman. Ambassador, we need to leave, now. Taman looked up from his dinner. What are you talking about? The humans. They're not like the Coalition. Look at this data. They're warriors. They've been warriors for their entire existence. Taman waved dismissively. That's ancient history. They've been at peace for 2 centuries. No, you don't understand. They didn't become peaceful. They just stopped fighting each other. All their military infrastructure is still there. I've been analyzing their industrial output. They produce far more raw materials than their civilian needs require. Where's it going? Vectis, you're being paranoid. I've toured their facilities. They're merchants, not soldiers. They showed you what they wanted you to see. Vectis pulled up more data. And there's something else. Their peace began exactly 200 years ago. Do you know what happened right before that? No. They unified their entire species. One government. One military. They took all their separate nations and merged them. That's not normal. Species unify gradually. Humans did it in less than 10 years. Why? Taman frowned. I don't know. I think they were preparing for something. I think they've been preparing for 200 years. And we just gave them an excuse to use everything they've built. Taman stood slowly. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Contact Warlord Krevash. Tell him to bring the full fleet, but it was too late. The 72 hours expired in 6 hours. And humanity was already moving. The celebration lasted 3 days across 12 conquered worlds. The Velthari Empire had won, and they made sure everyone knew it. Their warships filled the skies above cities that once belonged to peaceful traders and scientists. Green banners bearing the Velthari symbol hung from buildings that still smoked from plasma fire. The victory had come fast, too fast for the Rimward Coalition to mount any real defense. Warlord Krevash stood on the balcony of what used to be the Coalition's central government building. Below him, thousands of Velthari soldiers marched in perfect formation. Their scales gleamed under the alien sun, and their weapons hummed with power. Krevash smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This was his 5th conquest, but somehow it felt the sweetest. The Coalition had actually believed their peace treaties would protect them. How many ships did we lose? Krevash asked his second-in-command without turning around. 17, my lord. Minor damages to 34 others. The Coalition had no real military. They surrendered after we destroyed their orbital stations. Pathetic. Krevash turned away from the parade. What's next on our expansion route? His second-in-command pulled up a holographic map. Several star systems glowed in red, marking Velthari territory. A cluster of yellow systems marked the newly conquered Coalition space. Beyond that, A small group of blue systems sat isolated from the rest of galactic civilization. The human territories, my lord. 7 planets, 43 stations. Minimal military presence according to our scans. Krivash studied the human systems with interest. What do we know about them? Very little. They've been isolationist for 200 years. Limited contact with other species. Our intelligence suggests they're technologically inferior to the Coalition, which means significantly inferior to us. Why the isolation? The second-in-command scrolled through data. Unknown. They participated in galactic trade and politics until about 2 centuries ago, then gradually withdrew. Current population estimates suggest around 40 billion across their territories. Krivash nodded slowly. Send Ambassador Taman to their homeworld. Give them the standard ultimatum. 72 hours to surrender or face extinction. Far away in a quiet corner of space, Commander Hyunwoo sat in his office at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station. He was reading the same report for the 3rd time. The news had come through refugee ships carrying survivors from the Coalition worlds. The stories were consistent and terrifying. Dr. Nari entered without knocking. She had been interviewing refugees for the past 2 days and exhaustion showed on her face. The reports are accurate, she said, dropping into a chair. The Velthari hit every major city simultaneously. Their weapons bypassed the Coalition's shields like they weren't even there. Some worlds surrendered immediately. Others tried to fight with cargo ships and mining equipment. How many casualties? Hyunwoo asked. Millions in the initial attacks. The Velthari don't bomb civilians deliberately, but they don't seem to care if civilians are near military targets either. After the surrender, they've been relatively civilized. No mass executions or enslavement. They just take control of everything and expect obedience. Hyunwoo turned back to his screens. And now they're coming here. You've heard something? Admiral Doyen called an hour ago. Our long-range sensors picked up a Velthari diplomatic ship entering our space. It's heading straight for Earth. He pulled up the tracking data. They'll arrive in about 6 hours. Nari leaned forward. What are we going to do? Listen to what they have to say. Then we'll decide. Hyunwoo, the Coalition had 12 species working together. They had shields, plasma weapons, quantum technology. The Velthari crushed them in weeks. What chance do we have? Hyunwoo looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. More than they think. 6 hours later, Ambassador Taman's ship docked with Earth's orbital station. He was a tall Velthari, his scales polished to a mirror shine, wearing ceremonial armor decorated with medals from previous conquests. He brought only 2 guards, a deliberate show of confidence. Hyunwoo and Nari met him in the station's diplomatic suite. The room was simple, functional, designed for business rather than comfort. Taman seemed amused by this. I am Ambassador Taman of the Velthari Empire, he began. I bring greetings from Warlord Krivash and an opportunity for your species. An opportunity, Nari repeated carefully. Indeed, the Velthari Empire is expanding, bringing order and civilization to this sector. We have defeated the Rimward Coalition. Their territories are now ours. Your worlds lie next in our path. Taman activated a holographic display showing human space surrounded by red Velthari systems. You have 2 choices. Surrender peacefully and become part of our empire, or resist and face the consequences. What happens if we surrender? Hyunwoo asked. Your governments will be dissolved. Velthari administrators will take control of your worlds. Your military will be disbanded. In return, you will receive protection, access to our technology, and the privilege of serving the Empire. Many species find this arrangement quite satisfactory after the initial adjustment period. And if we refuse, Taman's smile showed too many teeth, then we will take your worlds by force. Your cities will burn. Your ships will be destroyed. And when you finally surrender, the terms will be much harsher. We give you 72 hours to make your decision. Nari glanced at Hyunwoo. His face remained calm, almost bored. She'd worked with him long enough to know that meant he was thinking very carefully. 72 hours isn't much time, Nari said. We need to consult with our government. Prepare our people for such a major change. You need time to organize your surrender ceremony, you mean? Taman waved a clawed hand. Very well. 72 hours. I will return then to receive your answer, though I think we both know what it will be. I have studied your species. You've been at peace for decades. You have no standing army, no battle fleet. You're traders and explorers, not warriors. This doesn't have to be difficult. After Taemin left, Nari turned to Hyunwoo. He thinks we've already surrendered. I know. He has no idea what humanity is, does he? No, Hyunwoo said quietly. He looked at our recent history and thought he understood. He saw 200 years of peace and assumed we're like the coalition. He didn't bother looking deeper. Should we tell him? Hyunwoo shook his head. No. Let him find out the same way the others did. Contact Admiral Doyon. Tell him to activate Protocol Omega, all of it. Nari hesitated. Are you sure? Once we start that, there's no going back. They gave us 72 hours. We'll use every second. He looked out the viewport at Earth spinning slowly below, but not to prepare for surrender. We've had 200 years of peace, Nari, that was nice. But we never forgot what came before. We never forgot who we are. Across human space, quiet alarm codes began transmitting. In asteroid fields, hidden shipyards powered up for the first time in decades. Inside gas giants, battle stations began their activation sequences. In underground bunkers on 100 worlds, military personnel received their recall notices. Humanity was going to war again, and the Velthari had no idea what they'd just awakened.